heart of Dallas, we know that life moves fast. And when it does, you need an insurance company that's as reliable as the city we call home. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to be a part of the Dallas community, offering customized coverage to protect your home, your car, and your family. Whether you're navigating downtown or enjoying a weekend in the suburbs, we've got you covered every step of the way. We're more than just an insurance company. We're your Dallas neighbor, always here to help. Northwest Insurance, proudly serving Dallas.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, everybody, to the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Dean Ralsky. Thank you for listening. We've got an exciting episode for you guys today as the Mustangs begin a huge recruiting weekend. They have a bunch of the top talent, not only in Texas, but across the country, coming to the Hilltop this weekend for their official visits. So before we break down all of the players that will be making the trip to SMU this weekend, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes look of what the staff does to prepare for these big weekends, how they make sure it's all running smoothly when the players get here, and then also just a look at how SMU's recruiting has changed from a few years ago. They brought in a lot of new personnel since then, and also the huge move to the ACC. So we've got a special guest on today's episode. The Director of Recruiting Operations, Bryan Filker, will join us. But before we hear from him and all that he had to say, it was a super awesome interview. Let's hear a word from our friends at StatusJet.
The On the Pony Express podcast is presented by our friends at StatusJet, statusjet.com. Appreciate their support of us, but also giving you guys a discount on a round trip flight. When you reach out to them and you mention code PonyUpACC or On the Pony Express, they'll give you that discount, whether it be a family vacation of a lifetime, teaming up with a bunch of families to go somewhere, or taking clients and work colleagues on a work trip. StatusJet is the way to go. They can get you from point A to point B with that level of luxury you'd expect and into those tough to get to places as well. So call them today. Just start the conversation because it takes zero membership fee as well. So that's another plus with our friends at StatusJet.
So thank you to StatusJet for sponsoring the On the Pony Express podcast. And also a thank you to Bryan Filker for giving us his time. It's very limited, especially with official visit season coming up. So let's jump in and hear what Director of Recruiting Operations, Bryan Filker, had to say. All right, so on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, we are joined by SMU royalty Bryan Filker, the Director of Recruiting Operations. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you, Dean, man. Dream come true for me. I've been listening to the podcast. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
All right.
So I'm really excited. Yes, sir.
It's a nice little full circle moment.
Yes, sir.
So my first question for some people who may not know a lot about you is, can you just tell us a little bit about your story and your background and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess kind of where I'm at now. So going in the fourth season with the team, came on with Coach Lashley and crew and everything. Got started here a few years back. Before that, grew up in middle of nowhere, Ohio. We just call Cleveland because that was the closest major city people recognize, you know. So grew up in Ohio, was a big Cleveland Browns football guy.
Okay.
Always had dreams of working in football, working in sports. Never really knew how. And I learned what good football looked like because I watched a lot of really bad football. Not a slight against the Browns, but growing up in my tenure, it was tough at times, right?
Yeah.
But I knew in contrast, what good football looked like, right? And I saw the impact that winning would have on a city, right? Especially the LeBron years with the Cavs and everything that impacted there. And I knew that to be a part of something like that can be incredibly powerful, right? So all to say, I was like, I'm going to go into coaching. Okay. So got in my first education class and I was like, to be a teacher, to be a coach, do the thing. Got in my first teaching class and I was like, this is not for me. The kids were awesome, but like all the lesson planning and things that went into it, I was like, this is not what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, did every random job you can imagine in my 20s. Just try to get life experience and figure out my path. Ended up hitting a reset button, joined the military, was in the Air Force for 4 years. So from 2018 to 2021, 2022, was active duty with that out in Alaska, fighting the Russians.
They're awesome.
Yeah, doing F-22 intel. So during that time period, I kind of learned to myself that hey, you can really do whatever you want to do, right? If you have the mindset and you've gone off and done it now, you're thousands of miles away from home, like what's stopping you from pursuing your dream? So COVID hit, all of our ops shut down, and gave me an opportunity to kind of revisit life and see what I wanted out of life, right? So moved down to Texas, chasing the football dream. And in that interim time, just networking with everybody that I could.
Right.
If you were on Twitter at the time, now X, and you worked in football or on LinkedIn, I was following you, spamming you with messages, and eventually got a couple people to hit me back. Guys Crowley being one of them. He's at University of Arizona. I was general manager. And then Alex Brown, who's over at Ole Miss now, running the personnel department there. So those two really poured into me quite a bit and gave me a lot of good experience, right? And learned the lessons I need to do to kind of break in, right? Provide some value. So I started with the Scouting Academy, kind of teaching myself how to do, player evaluation.
Right,
so I was like,
right.
There's coaching or there's scouting, right? There's nothing else. Little did I learn there's a lot more that goes into it. But anyway, started doing scouting to kind of build my own portfolio.
Okay.
So from that point, I worked with the 33rd team. I'm kind of helping get that program that project off the ground with Mike Tannenbaum and Joe Banner. So really did a lot of player evaluation for that. Was the Big 12 area scout. Worked with a couple of guys that have gone on now. One's the DPP at University of Georgia, Will Myers there, and a lot of other people that are around the league. So I got to tap in with them and learn a lot of experiences through that. And then pivoted from that point down here to SMU. Started as just a volunteer personnel recruiting assistant. Helped to build a lot of our transfer portal processes along the way, kind of get the first group going there. Started with that, and then I was looking for any opportunity I could just kind of continue to grow my skills. So I go to the personnel recruiting symposiums, doing networking there. Really trying to build a brand and build a name for myself because I didn't play big time college, football. I barely played little time high school football, right? So the skill set wasn't there. So I had to kind of outwork and out network my competition. So did that. End up working with the East-West Shrine Bowl a couple years back with Eric Galco and crew as a NFL liaison with them. So worked with the players, worked with NFL scouting staffs there, and then some media as well. And then worked with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for a stint covering Texas area pro days. So kind of bounced around all around the state. Got to see what that looked like. So I have some professional scouting experience now too.
Absolutely.
And then kind of continue to grow here through SMU. And really just kind of lean into those skill sets of like being willing to do whatever the job was, like whether it was, taking out trash. There was a joke that I used to make, right? People would ask me how many game day fits I was on throughout the game day, right? Because by the time you knew it, I was on my third or fourth outfit because I was like, I'm just going to sweat and work harder than anybody else. So kind of a running joke that we had, and then kind of elevated throughout then, became a player personnel recruiting graduate assistant the next year. So I worked with tight ends and quarterbacks were kind of my two positions that with Coach Woods and formerly Coach Brewer. Got to work with them and kind of help build their boards and look at players to kind of bring on in the area there. So did that, and then elevated last season to assistant director of recruiting operations with JR came in and kind of took over the helm there. And then most recently promoted director of recruiting operations. So that's kind of a condensed story of how we kind of got to where we're at today.
That's awesome. And obviously college football has changed tremendously over the last few years. But in terms of recruiting and specifically at SMU, how have you seen SMU sort of change their style of recruiting over the since you've been here?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. The biggest thing, I guess, kind of starts from like a top-down approach, right?
Yeah.
It's all about alignment and being on the same page. And Coach Lashley has very much embodied the mindset and the mantra of just being honest and transparent in our recruiting practices, right? Especially in the age of the player empowerment era, right? We got all the transfer portals, you got the NIL, all the different kind of components, right? It's more advantageous to be direct and transparent with people on the front end, especially with like our internal personalities, right? So we're not going on and doing negative recruiting, pitches. We're not kind of bashing other schools or other programs. Right. It's all about what do we do well, what do we have to offer, and how can you come here and get the most out of your SMU experience, right, on the field and off the field. Yeah. So that's kind of what we start with, is just being, positive in our recruiting practices and this 100% authenticity. And he's really empowered us to be ourselves, which is incredible. Because I'm the classic goofball, right? And it's cool. He's like, hey, Phil, be yourself, right? Yeah. Like, we need to show, exactly who we are. So when these guys get on campus, it's not, hey, surprise, right? You're somebody else. So that's really where it started. And then when JR was brought in last year from Oklahoma, he really kind of clearly defined everybody's roles. Okay. Set the pathways and the lanes so everybody knew what success looked like in their job, right? He always talks about the 5 pillars of recruiting. You got to identify, you got to market, you got to, customer service, you got to onboard, all the other components that go into it, right? To make sure everybody's in alignment there. So we kind of follow through those pathways and all of our general processes. So we know there's no really guesswork in the job, if that makes sense. And then we've assembled honestly probably like a superstar team, right, of people here. We got Kendall Lambert, who's our senior director of recruiting. She came over she's at Alabama, LSU, Auburn previously before coming here. Connor Morgan, senior DPP. He was at Alabama and Baylor before coming here. Paige, who's our director of on-campus recruiting. She was at Texas Tech, Houston, and then came here. Bailey, who's our graduate assistant with recruiting. She was at Oklahoma previously. And then Jeremiah Waite, who's our DPP of defense. He was at West Virginia before coming over here. And then we've got Coach Foster as well, Tyler Foster, that was at Baylor, was at UTSA, a lot of different stops, a lot of different experience to tap in here as well. So that's kind of like our core group of our recruiting team. And so we've got a lot of great people, have a lot of great ideas, and seen a lot of ways that at very high levels of competition, right? Success, how that all looks. On top of that, we've kind of built out a really nice, we call them specialists, right? A pool of interns. We've got about 35 in total. Man. And if you're cool with it, just for like everyone understands the scope of what goes into like functioning and running a program, and read off all their names real quick.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll go personnel side. We got Cam, Dallas, Abe, Caden, Ethan, George, Marshall, Case, Jack, Pogue, Kylie, Owen, Jose, Malone, Abe, and Jake Langley that recently had joined us as well.
Right.
Recruiting side, McKenna, Nicole, Angela, Daniel, Micah, Skylar, Alex, Matt, Ryan, Alec, Jordan, Kyler, Brittany, and then like our full-time staff component with, D West, Natty, those guys, and then the other full-time staffers I mentioned. And we also have an analytics team we've kind of built up too. So we got Mohammed, Antonio, Nick, and Kylie all running that realm as well. So we've got, they say that it takes a city to raise a kid. It takes a city to raise a football program as well. And these are the names that you don't see, on Saturdays or kind of behind the scenes. So I just wanted to shout out them. I think it's really important that how much they do for the program and how much they sacrifice to make sure that we succeed on Saturdays, but also like these official visit type periods.
Absolutely. And that's part of the reason I wanted to get you on the podcast, is because there are not a lot of people that realize the full extent of what goes on. Like you said, winning on Saturdays, but SMU doesn't win on Saturday if they're not winning in this area.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Moving on a little bit, SMU's got a huge recruiting weekend coming up on Friday and into the weekend. So what can you tell us, as much as you can, about what goes on preparing for a big official visit weekend like this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many things that go on in the build-up, right? It starts several years back when you start recruiting these guys, right? So a lot of our general recruiting and the board construction, all that stuff, relies on the coaches, right? Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of that autonomy that comes from them. So they kind of dictate the directions where a lot of stuff goes, right? And they feed into relationships. And over the course of time, they're coming up for, spring games, or coming up for practices, or coming up for game days. You kind of build that relationship over the course of time. And then by the time you get into that, going into their senior season, you have an opportunity to bring them on campus and, show them everything we got, right? So we try to make sure that we're mindful that when they come here for the big visit weekend, it's not just a lot of repetition, right, from what they've seen previously. Mm-hmm. We'll try to make sure they get all the components, doing facility tours, doing campus tours, making sure that all the different improvements and things we're making still get seen, right? Mm-hmm. But then you'll have academic components sprinkled in. You'll have life after ball type meetings. You'll have meeting with the strength, human performance staff, with nutrition, like all the other components, right? Equipment. The creative teams, like there's all these other segues that they get exposed to and see like the entirety of our program.
Yeah.
And then like the build up to it, you've got everything from logistical side, right? You're renting vehicles. So whether that's SUVs, we're taking guys in, or buses to get everybody around, because you'll have, sometimes these guest lists turn out to be in, 100 plus people. You're looking at all the prospects you have.
Right.
So a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. So you'll have that transportation component that comes in, and guys coming into campus, being that we recruit a lot of the DFW area locally, sometimes it makes it easier car servicing, getting guys in. But then the guys, we have more of a national footprint, you got to get them in for flight. You got to make sure the flights all line up, make sure that, Kendall, Bailey, Paige do a really great job of making sure all that's on point, right? So everyone ends up here at the same time in the same place. And then you've got a lot of the, lodging concerns. Okay, we're going to put them up in a hotel that can facilitate this. So months in advance, you're doing all the planning, doing all the contract negotiations, you make sure things align with SMU's policies and principles, right? Following NCAA regulations. So there's a lot of different components that go into that. Then you're setting up creative photo shoot stations, right? A lot of really cool graphics and things you see put out there.
Yeah.
There's an entire, setup that goes into that. And Carter and Emilio do a great job getting things squared away there. And they've got Spencer and a lot of other really talented students as well to help them out, which is great. The equipment team with Frank, Travis, Sawyer, and then all of their minions they have. I call them the equip monks, right? They swear off all the secrecies of the outdoor world and just kind of hang out in the basement. So they do all the gear setup and make sure that everyone has the proper helmet they want and the visors and all the gear that comes with it, right? You've got credentials to go into play. So it's like you want to have a theme. So you're going to, okay, let's get our think tank together. Let's figure out what that looks like.
Man.
So you're having outsourcing of credentials being created. Then you've got them being printed out and then hand sticking them, right? So you got like a workshop in the other room right now, 20, 30 people. Hey, let's all come together. Let's get some food. Let's go at it, right?
Yeah.
Unofficially sponsored by, your energy drink of choice, right? Insert sponsorship here if you're interested. Right. So having that in play there, you got coaches meeting and logistics that goes with that. So head coach meetings, position meetings, talking ball while they're here. So getting those components talked through as well. Restaurants, catering, you're going to go off site. Like, what are you going to do? Because you want to give them kind of a taste of what Dallas has to offer, right?
Absolutely.
So you want to show the SMU component, right? And how great the campus is, how we're kind of trending in the right direction, the standard that we set and how we continue to chase that from a day to day. But then also get out there and show what Dallas has to offer. You're a mile away from downtown. You can go out and we'll go to Reunion Tower and do incredible dinners there. So just kind of really tapping into the uniqueness that Dallas has to offer, which is incredible. And then you got student itinerary components, you got staff itinerary components, like all the logistics that come into behind the scenes of that to make sure everyone knows, hey, at 5 o'clock, we're going here. At 6 o'clock, we close this door, walk out this hallway, turn left and go here. You know what I mean? Spell it down to the most minute detail so that when the players and their families come through, it's seamless. The biggest thing for us once they get on campus is just being hospitable, right? It becomes the ultimate. We make the joke of the Chick-fil-A hospitality training, like, hey, you open the door. Hey, my pleasure. Thanks so much. But that's the level it gets to because you want to make them feel comfortable. You want to make them feel like they're at home. And then, because if you don't have that feeling, a lot of these guys are, they're leaving home for the first time, right? You get on their own. It's a big adjustment period, 18 to 22 or 25 or 26, how old these guys are now, right? But you have a huge adjustment period and a lot of opportunities for growth, and you need to have people in place to support that. So we want to make sure that we have a welcoming environment for all of them. I know I got kind of long-winded.
No, it's great.
That's like an insight into what all that goes into it.
No, that is awesome. I think the fans will really appreciate it, and of course, appreciate your time. So, thank you to you, Bryan.
You mind if I give a couple of shout-outs too for thank yous and support along
absolutely.
the way? So first and foremost, Coach Lashley, like so much for the opportunity, right, of having really great people here that we can build with, we can be ourselves, and we couldn't do it without that kind of leadership at the top, right? Everybody else that kind of comes into it, like the program is cliche as you hear the family kind of thing. It's really, it reigns true here. As people go through different personal things in their lives, like you have a warm, supporting environment here that everyone can kind of tap into, and you spend so much time together. You want to enjoy and really be able to embrace those relationships and fellowship. So we have a lot of components with that. My parents are incredible supporters, right? Mom and dad holding down for us. My brother Brandon, his wife Alexis, they've been incredible. They used to be down here originally when I first get started, so they supported me a lot. My kiddos, my 2 daughters there, they're big Pony Up football fans. And then my girlfriend Bria, she's incredible as well, and just like all the support that goes into making sure I'm good to come out here and give my best to the program, right? Because it's not about any individual person; it's about how we all contribute to the success of the Mustang. So
absolutely,
I appreciate you, Dean.
I think the culture that SMU's and Coach Lashley is trying to build is far beyond just the locker room and the players, and it's certainly showing. So thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Coach Filker, for your time. I appreciate it,
man. Absolutely. Pony up.
Thank you again to Bryan Filker for giving us some of his time, as again, he is busy this time of year. His official visit season is getting into full swing. And so let's break down some of these prospects that are going to be on SMU's campus. And why not start with 4-star running back commit Christian Rhodes? This is one of the very first commitments to this class. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. That may sound like a power back, but when you turn on his film, he is speedy, breaking away from all sorts of defenders, 4-star on every website, and had a really nice offer list when you look at TCU, Miami, Kansas. So a really exciting prospect, and can maybe do some recruiting for the Mustangs here on this weekend, because it is a huge weekend just at the beginning of May. And, for SMU, this is going to likely be a 2 running back class. And so Christian Rhodes knew that when he committed. He's likely not going to be alone when this 2026 class is said and done. And one player they would love to pair Christian Rhodes with is KJ Edwards, the Carthage running back. Now, he is as you can see, super highly rated prospect out of the Texas area. Top 50 overall player, 5'10", 180 pounds, really nice high school production. The Mustangs are going to swing away here. It is not going to be an easy recruitment. I think it's fair to say the Texas Longhorns are the favorites to land Edwards at this point in time, but that doesn't mean the Mustangs are going to shy away in this recruitment. They are going to try and blow him away on this official visit weekend, and so we'll see what the Mustangs can do here. They would love, I think that would be their dream, to have Edwards and Rhodes as the two running backs in this class, but we'll just have to wait and see. Again, the Longhorns are doing a really nice job in this recruitment as well. And so those are some of the big running backs that are going to be on campus. As we move over to offensive line, there are a few more top prospects prior for SMU, and one of them is Drew Evers. He has been on campus at SMU a lot. When you think, and you can see, On Three is the highest on him, a top 120 overall prospect, top 10 interior offensive lineman prospect, rated super highly. Again, he's someone who has a really impressive offer list, as you can just see those schools there with SMU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Texas. So this is another, maybe not shooting for the stars. SMU certainly has a chance in this one, but that's the sort of prospect they're going after, and these are the types of schools that they're going up against. And this has been the last couple cycles, and you'd love to see SMU win out in a couple of these recruitments. So that's one of the top offensive line prospects that is going to be on campus this weekend. Another one, again, who's been to the Hilltop a lot is Papungatoa Katoa from Texas. Again, a lot of in-state prospects coming to SMU this weekend. And again, this is one where he's being recruited from some of the top schools in the country, but he's been to SMU a lot. You've got the connections. Can SMU win out here? This is one they would certainly like to have. And so we'll just have to wait and see there. But I mean, just the standard of prospects that are coming to SMU's campus this weekend is really, really impressive. If you look at the On3 industry ranking, I believe there are 12 4-stars. And, that doesn't tell the full story. There are plenty of really, really talented players that the Mustangs are high on coming to campus this weekend. And Papungatoa Katoa is just one of those names. Now, before we carry on with the rest of our prospects, let's hear a word from our friends at the Thomas Auto Group.
The On the Pony Express podcast is also presented by our friends at the Thomas Auto Group. Make sure you head up 75 to McKinney, check out their Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen dealerships, learn about the Thomas Promise, and also when you mention On the Pony Express, you get employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles. So check out the Thomas Promise today, and we appreciate Brandon Thomas, an SMU alum, supporting us at the On the Pony Express podcast.
At Thomas Auto Group, the Thomas Promise includes the low price promise,
the pre-owned promise,
and the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, home of the Thomas Promise.
So thank you to the Thomas Auto Group for sponsoring the On the Pony Express podcast. Now, as we move in to some receivers that are going to be on campus, one of them, well, there are multiple flip targets that are on campus, and one of them is Chris Stewart. He is a Texas wide receiver commit at this moment in time. You can see 4-star wide receiver, again, with offers all over the country. And this is one where SMU is going to swing away. They will also have his brother, who is a safety, Carter Stewart, on campus. So little connection there. We'll see what SMU can really muster up here on this official visit weekend. Another top receiver that's going to be on campus is Aljur Miles, the wide receiver out of Kaufman, Texas. Look, this has been really an SMU Oklahoma battle for a while now, but he did just pick up an offer from Texas. So that is certainly something to watch now, as the Longhorns have emerged as a player in this recruitment. And so we'll see if the Mustangs can hold off the Longhorns in this one. Like I just said, they're going after Chris Stewart, a current Longhorn commit. And so there are a ton of talented receivers, of course, in Texas. And so there's going to be some of that overlap between SMU and Texas now. So we'll see. Again, it had been an SMU versus Oklahoma battle. Texas offers the 6'3", 198-pound receiver. So can SMU hold off Texas? Let's see what sort of impression they can make on the receiver this weekend. After Miles, there is one more receiver I'll mention here, and this is a slot prospect. SMU needs this position right now, but also for the future as well. It can't hurt, and that is DeQuain Prevost from, again, the Texarkana area, a 4-star prospect according to the On3 industry rankings. Again, just highly recruited. He is another flip commit that will be on campus from, or is currently committed to, Arkansas. And so that'll be something to watch as well. SMU clearly showing they are not afraid to bring in some big dogs on campus, even if they say they have their ties and they're loyal to a school right now. SMU saying, hold on, give us a look. And so that is what DeQuain Prevost will be doing this weekend. And so it is a super talented wide receiver group going to be on campus. Again, a super talented group overall, but wide receiver in particular is a spot where the Mustangs have a chance to really make their mark in this 2026 class. Now, as we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, I should say before we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, let's hear a word from our friends at Rusty Taco.
The On the Pony Express podcast is also presented by our friends at Rusty Taco. That's right, the Greenville Avenue location. You could still get those free corn fritters with any purchase when you mention Pony Express at the register, or for online orders, you type in the code Pony Express. Corn fritters are a great compliment to any meal at Rusty Taco, and also the margaritas go down great with them as well. But check out their new menu. Looking forward to, obviously, anytime we get by Rusty Taco, but they've been a great partner for us, and they've always supported the struggling SMU student on those hungover weekend days with their great breakfast tacos, as well as just tacos for all hours of the day. So Rusty Taco, check out their patio as well right there on the Greenville Avenue location. Great time. Love Rusty Taco. Appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast.
So shout out to Rusty Taco for sponsoring the On the Pony Express podcast. Now, as we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, a very familiar name to fans who follow recruiting closely will be Duncanville edge prospect Landon Barnes. He's been on the hilltop a bunch over the last few months and is one of the top priorities for the SMU coaching staff in this cycle. They've got the Duncanville connection over the last couple of years. They will also have another Duncanville player who I'll mention shortly that will be on campus with Barnes. But again, he's got offers from the top programs in the country as well. And really, with everybody I'm talking about, the Mustangs are going up against the best of the best here in recruiting, and they're trying to make their mark and establish themselves as a top school, as they did on the field last year. They're trying to do it in the recruiting battles this year. And so Landon Barnes, again, a huge priority for Scott Simons and his defense and the future of the SMU defense. Another defensive lineman prospect for the Mustangs that will be on campus is Tiki Ola, and he's got a commitment date coming up soon. It is May 10th, and as of now, it sounds like it is a battle between SMU and Notre Dame, and so the Mustangs are going to try and make a really nice final impression before he makes his decision. Again, May 10th, so it'll be right about, if not exactly, a week after he visits SMU that he will decide where he's going to play his college ball. So a big opportunity. Again, the Mustangs will have to make a will have a nice opportunity to make a good impression on all these prospects, but specifically Tiki Ola is one that they will get immediate feedback depending on how the visit goes Friday and into Saturday. So those are a couple of the bigger defensive lineman prospects. And then just to wrap up here, a couple more secondary prospects. That includes Braylon Edwards. Again, this is another Duncanville high school football player Scott Simons really sees him as a safety in the future. It may say he's lined up at cornerback on 3, and some schools are recruiting him at the cornerback position, but Braylon Edwards is a safety in Coach Simons' eyes, and also a big priority similar to Landon Bards, that Duncanville duo, the Mustangs are going to push really, really hard for. And then the last prospect, which I already mentioned for just a little bit, is Carter Stewart, the brother of Texas wide receiver commit Chris Stewart. So Carter Stewart will join his brother on the hilltop this weekend. And, the Mustangs are high on him as well. Again, another safety prospect. So we'll, I'm sure, get to talk to Coach Simons this weekend, and they'll break down his game and his film. But that is another top safety prospect and priority for the Mustangs. And before I wrap this one up, I do also just want to give you guys the full list of players that will be here this weekend, at least according to On3. And so you can see the sort of talent that is going to be on campus this weekend. I didn't mention Andre Clark. He is a 4-star safety with a bunch of schools after him. Samuelu Utu, again, a huge interior offensive line prospect, 4-star. Rodney Colton, you see the linebacker there from Georgia. The Mustangs have that Georgia linebacker connection mainly through the transfer portal. When you think of Kobe Wilson and now Zakiah Barker coming to SMU, can they start to build that pipeline out of the high school ranks? Rodney Colton certainly fits that mold. We will see. Donovan Webb. And I mean, the list goes on here with Calvin Thomas, a big linebacker prospect going to be on SMU's campus. And so this is a very exciting weekend for SMU. And, we'll see how many commits they can get out of it. It's really early on in official visit season, so we will see. But it's a chance for the Mustangs to make a nice impression on some of the top prospects in the country. So super exciting times. You have to be subscribed to ontheponyexpress.com because there will be tons of intel dropped during the weekend. We'll have some live updates, and then also following the weekend, getting reactions from the prospects. What did they think of their official visit at SMU? So make sure to subscribe to the SMU on the Pony Express YouTube channel, but also to ontheponyexpress.com to stay up to date, because there could be news breaking Friday afternoon, Saturday, and beyond. And so you just want to hop on the website as soon as possible. Billy Embody is also coming back from his trip. He'll have his thoughts and even more intel to drop. So it is a great time to hop on the website. Just $1 for your first week. Try us out at ontheponyexpress.com. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap up this podcast. Hope you all had a great week and an enjoyable time listening to this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody.
Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at on3SMU.
And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.